So now I want to talk about graphing horizontal and vertical lines. So horizontal and vertical lines are not entirely different from other lines. They're just kind of special cases. So if you have a line that is just y equals some number, so we might say y equals b in general, or for example y equals 3, you can think of this as a line that is actually y equals 0x plus 3, right? Because 0 times anything is just 0. So we're kind of missing, if you go back to the y equals mx plus b, if there's a 0 here, we just kind of get, this term kind of goes away and we just get y equals b. So if you think about the slope of something being 0, I think it kind of makes sense. Slope is like how slanted it is, right? Or how steep the pitch is. So if you have a 0 slope, that means there's no slant at all, meaning it's totally flat or it's straight across. So a 0 slope corresponds with a horizontal line. So a 0 slope gives us a horizontal line. So another way of thinking about it is that we already have the b, so that's the y-intercept, right? So that's 3. And then, but then the line actually says y equals 3. So it doesn't say what x equals, or it doesn't say what happens to x, but it says that y is always equal to 3, which means that x doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter what x is, whether x is 1 or 2 or 7, y is always equal to 3, no matter if it's 3.5, if it's 4.6, whatever the case is, whatever x is, y is always equal to 3. And that's another way of saying a horizontal line. So if x is -2, y is always 3. So no matter what happens to x, y is always -3, or y is always 3, sorry. That gives us a horizontal line. So not all my points are graphed really well, but you can see that this gives us a horizontal line. And again, it goes on forever in both directions. So anytime you see an equation that's just y equals some number, this is always a horizontal line. So it's always of the form y equals b, or y equals just some number, and that always gives us a horizontal line. Now let's talk about vertical lines. So you might have already guessed that a vertical line is going to be x equals something, and that's right. So if we have an equation that gives us x equals some number, a lot of times for general we would say x equals a, but as a specific example, x equals -2, we're looking for points where x equals -2. So, but it doesn't really matter what y equals, again, kind of like the last one. So if we have points where x equals -2, but it doesn't matter what y equals, that would be here, or here, or here, right? X equals -2, doesn't matter what y equals. So x, in these cases, in all of these points, x equals -2, and I'm just changing up what y equals. So that is how we get a vertical line. And we'll talk about the slope of a vertical line in just a second. So this gives us a vertical line. And the slope of a vertical line is a little bit more difficult to deal with. So it doesn't really fit into this form, y equals mx plus b, because there's no y. And the reason is that this is not actually even a function. So we'll talk more about functions later, but this is kind of a special thing. So when x equals -2 and you have an equation like that, there's actually, it's not that there's a zero slope here. We call the slope undefined. So we say in this case that the slope is undefined. And if you think of this as a roof, or, we talked about slope being the slant of a roof or the steepness of a hill. If you think about this being a roof or a hill, it will not work. You will not be able to walk up this hill. This roof will not protect your house from the rain. So this is an undefined slope, meaning it doesn't really work as a slope, or it doesn't work as a roof or a hill. It's just undefined. If you were walking up it, you would fall off. That's not true for the zero slope, right? For the horizontal line. If that was a hill, it would be a boring hill, but you could walk on it, right? So this is kind of different. If this was a hill, you couldn't walk on it. You would fall right off. Or if it was a roof, it would not keep rain out of your house. So it's a different kind of thing, and we call it undefined slope.